Apologies, apologies. I am a busy lady doing things and stuff. So I know it's been like 4 days. But uh yeah, I've been working, getting really into my hobbies. I'm doing all sorts of stuff, but we can talk about that later maybe. Um I am ready for the next batch of videos. And I want to tell you a few behind the scenes things that happened earlier in my childhood that I didn't talk about that directly impact the way that my mind started working as we moved to this new town. So, when we lived in the original house with the dogs, there was this running joke amongst my brothers that I would be a teen mom, that I would be a whore, that I would be a slut. I mean, it was the 2000s. You know how shaming works. Um, and it was pretty much a continuous thing. Steve, I think he partook a little bit. He was really in his angry teen era, which as I've gotten older, I realized it was more than that. Um, but at the time, it was especially B that would say these things to me. That I was going to grow up and I was going to be in the gutter, I was going to be a stripper. Obviously, these are things that I hold no prejudice over, but at the time, I wasn't even a teenager yet, and it really messed me up. Um, Throughout my whole childhood, throughout all of my teen years, B would act like I was incestual. He told me when I was really, really young, like before the house with the dog, so I would have been younger than second grade, um, that apparently I tried to quote unquote French kiss him. And so that turned into this whole running bit about like him saying that I sexualize him, him saying that I'm a disgusting person, him using that as fuel and ammunition to kind of drive the point home that I am a slut, that I am going to be a pregnant teen, if not preteen. Um, and so I had all these thoughts in my head. And as well as that, alongside that, I was having major body issues because I was overweight and I smelled bad. Um, and I wasn't clean. And so I had this running thought in my head that just started one day when I had started growing breasts. I looked in the mirror and I said, nobody's ever gonna love you. You are never going to know life with love. Nobody's ever gonna fall in love with you. Nobody's ever gonna think you're beautiful. Um, you're going to be a whore. You're gonna like I thinking about it now, those are heartbreaking things for a child to think to themselves. Um, and I remember vocalizing it to my mother once, and it only took once. Because she said, well, I have that body type and nobody's ever complained to me. Um, and it wasn't, I don't know, it was hard. So, I had all of that background going into this new area where my ex-boyfriend went to Catholic school. His friend went to the same school I was in the same class as I was, and then Kay was an hour away. And we really just texted. Now, it's really weird because when I think about this time, I don't just think about high school. I think it's very emotional for me because this is when things really started getting darker. Um, and it's really weird because, I was out of the environment, right? I was out of the environment with the dogs. I smelled good. I was clean. Like, so at the time, I didn't think there was a problem anymore. I was like, oh, I'm out of the thick of it. Um, but then the real misery started. And I remember right after I moved there, I started talking to this guy that was in the original town. He was multiple years older than me. Um, and we were having inappropriate conversations for a 13-year-old girl. Um, sorry, Dad. I decided a long time ago I was just gonna, for better or for worse, be honest about this. It doesn't, like I said, I made bad decisions, but I think it's important to have the entire story um, in order to fully understand the scope of things. Because survivors do make bad decisions. And this was a first one out of a very long line of bad decisions I made. And so I was talking to this person, and I remember it was my first time sending inappropriate pictures. Um, and I felt such a thrill. I mean, I don't even think he said anything beyond, like, oh, you look so pretty, or your body looks good. Um, but that was like a high that I had become obsessed with. Um, and so then everything became about that. Everything became about like being sexually appealing. Everything came about, like wanting to be seen as an old soul, wanting validation, wanting to just even be told that I was pretty or that I was funny. Um, and I had learned a long time ago that if I just did what people wanted, if I just became what they wanted, then that's what would happen. That they would accept me, that they would love me, or at least what I thought was love. Um, and so I go on through this, and very shortly after, I have no idea how it happened, but I believe it was like this phone call had called me out of the blue. Or maybe it was like a message on Facebook. I don't know. I got it way too young. But I met this guy, um, and I was 14. He was 17. His name was Brett. He lived 2 hours away, and we had started texting. I was platinum blonde at the time, because another snippet to make a note of here is that when the second grade happened, I started having my hair dyed a lot, or more specifically, my mother would dye my hair. Um, all sorts of colors, every color you can think of, I've had, fashion or natural. But at this time, I happened to be platinum blonde, and that happened to be Brett's preferred color of hair. And so we really hit it off. Um, but for him, it was a lot more of that sexual, inappropriate conversation and photography, and it was the first time I'd really heard the "I love you, baby," and "You're beautiful," and um, but there became a certain point where like the "you're beautiful" turned into "wow, that was not a very good picture," or it turned into "wow, you're actually acting crazy right now." Um, and I remember with this whole thing with him, right, where his ex-girlfriend, her name was Emily, and she was 13. She was a year younger than me. And he would tell me this thing about how crazy she was and how, like, he had fingered her once and his fingers smelled like fish. So he called her fish sticks. Um, and like at the time, I was like, wow, that girl's a fucking bitch, right? Like, obviously. Like, that's all. And now I'm like, Jesus, that poor girl. That poor girl. Anyway, I digress. So I think that's where I'm going to end it here. I think Brett's a good spot, just introducing him. I am going to continue on for the second batch of things. But yeah, we'll keep going.